the extent of your powers, little one. Now you will watch me draw upon the power of the universe to send that child into the netherworld. Now place it on the altar.
Welcome to RPG Boons, everybody, the Age of Ruin solo play-along series. I'm Don Franco 3. This is the witching hour, where supernatural things tend to happen. So today we're going to play the solo play-along. As if you've done this before, and you have a character that survived this long, that's awesome. I know mine has died a couple of times. You can just get ready and go and hit the timestamp. If this is, as always, because I don't know if this is the first time somebody clicking on this video, I gotta go through the beginning process of character creation and what we're doing here and how we're playing. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that. But if you have your character sheet, you're ready to go, you're ready to roll some dice. Maybe you got your real die, your virtual die, your D20 only. You can use average damages if need be. Then you can just hit the timestamp and be ready to go. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started with the character build. So first, we're going to be using basically Shadowdark rules. Now, before you get turned off, Shadowdark really is just a hybrid of 1st edition and 5th edition. That's the other thing. You have to have played Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, something like that, that you're familiar with these type of role-playing games, the fantasy RPGs. If you've done that already, then this is pretty easy actually, because all you've done in the past is have a character sheet, attributes, you roll a bunch of checks, and then based on those checks, you win. So the first thing I'm going to do is do character creation. I'm going to put all these links in the description so you guys can go there and check out to see exactly where to get all this stuff. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a character from Shadowdark. And again, this is just basically D&D 1E5E hybrid. So the scrolls in Shadowdark are essentially supplemental material with different classes, but I always, for the character creation part, turn these off because I want to just do a straight look at the 4 classes, make it very simple. Now you can use these scrolls, and if you're familiar with them, then go ahead and just create what you want. If you have an existing character, again, you can use them instead. The one thing is we're going to be using 5th level characters this time. So I mentioned previously we're going to start from 1st level and potentially go all the way to 10th level and then restart with different missions, different epics within our story. And so first thing I did is I clicked off all the scrolls. So this is shadowdarklings.net/create !! The next thing you want to do is leave it on random 1 and then do best fit. Okay, now once you do that, you can literally click generate character and it'll create the character that you want and name it for you. Give you basic stat rolls. So this is a half-orc fighter named Kagbaz with a background of banished, and yeah, you can see the basic outline here. Don't worry, this is not the official what you're going to use, but this is the working document. And you can see indeed you do have a higher strength here, which is what you want. You know, nice little picture, a little bit about the ancestry fighter, blah blah blah. But then you get to pick your weapon mastery. Okay, if you want, it gives you a list of all the different weapons, so you can flavor him real quick. If you're just ready to go, there's a button you can click at the bottom. All the way up here, it says export PDF. You can just click that if you're ready to go and you don't want to really spend time creating your character. Otherwise, you can customize certain things. Here's grit, dexterity grit. It just shows you talents, the way you got your talents. But the more important thing here for us today is we're gonna level him up. So this is the only thing I've always kind of complained about, is you can't just straight level them up. This should be, I think, a total pull down tab. Instead, this is kind of cute, I guess. You got to give them XP to level them. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to gain level 2. We're going to go all the way to level 5. So it's going to take a couple seconds here. Going to level 3. And you'll see once he gets to level 5, you actually get to customize him a little bit here. You also could just hit generate, and it should give you all the stats and everything, the extra skills all put in there for you, so you don't really have to do any rolls. But again, this is an opportunity at least to customize your character a little bit. So hit level 5, and now you're going to see we're able to add all these things, all the leveling. Level 2 here. Build some extra hit points. Okay. Now the important thing here is we're going to make the average hit points at minimum. That's the way I play all my games, is you get at least the average roll for the hit points. So in this case, it's a 1d8. So you need to get at least 5 times 5. So you need to have at least 25 hit points if you're a fighter here. So let's go ahead and roll hit points. And now we're going to roll for talent. Very nice. +1 melee and ranged. Hit points again, 17. We're gonna have to, I think we're gonna have to fudge it a little bit, because I think he should have at least 25. I don't, yeah. Anyway, so let's go ahead and do hit points. Bam. Look, it's the witching hour. I literally got the roll that I wanted, right? We jumped from 17 to 25, which means I rolled yes and 8 as it says here. That's exactly the hit points we need to continue witching hour. I don't know, it's up to you. It's supernatural. And we're gonna roll for talent, +1 to melee and ranged attacks. Okay, so we're ready there. And it's nice, you got tabs on the side here, you can remove those levels. Now we can name him, right? So just for fun, we're gonna name him Frank. Oh, but you know what, because we're fantasy, it's not just going to be simple Franco, it's going to be Franco, and we're going to call him Tree. Franco Tree the Orc. All right, not a Don yet. And lawful, don't be a weird alignment like chaotic. I mean, it just disrupts the game. Anyway, so it's picked its deity. I really don't care for that right now, and I'm just going to hit PDF export. And what it'll happen is one of my tabs will pop up, tell me what it's doing. Now I can literally click on that PDF. So at least you had to have a little bit of internet here to get to that. Now I can zoom into this, right? Here's the little, make it as wide as my entire screen. That's a little much. Let me zoom out a little. Okay, so if you're not in the mood for actually creating and generating your character, you can actually screenshot this whole thing right here. You're ready to go. 15 hit points, very low armor class, 13, not very good. We got weapons, proficiencies, all that stuff. Then we actually got the stuff here. Now, because you're 5th level, I'm gonna do a little something extra, I think. And that little extra is basically giving them a little more treasure. Okay, so very quickly, I'm gonna give you, for every level that you got, I started writing this stuff down here. Ignore all my notes. Sometimes I leave my notes in here. So you do get certain level of gold is an important key point to experience points in Shadowdark. So I'm gonna say your 50th level, and I want you to be able to buy the equipment you need. We're going to do 2 things. I'm going to give you, let's do for every level you have, let's give you 1d8. 1d8, 8 times 4. No, we want more than that. 1d10, that's more than that. How about, you know what? But I'm thinking too hard. Okay, right here tells us I actually did the sum XP. People like doing those XP and just sustaining those XP points, because typically in Shadowdark, once you get to the level, you go back down to 0 and then you restart. So you have to get from 10, you have to get 10 to get to level 2, 20, 30, and then it just keeps dropping back to 0 once you level. But here's the actual XP numbers. So let's just pick a number right in between the middle. I'm going to give you, you know what? Let's do 100 GP plus either 5d10. Yeah, just do 5d10. You probably got the dice. And if you don't got the dice, I'm going to show you the virtual roller. Once you have that, we can actually go down here to weapons and equipment. You can see all that here. You can buy whatever you want to alter your character to make them better and improve that armor class, okay? The other thing I want you to do is I want you to roll for magic item, okay? So you can go here to this is obviously from the red box. You can basically roll percentile dice. Now look, if you're playing a wizard, you want to play wizard, you can. There's a thing called henchman in this game, which I'll explain later. But if you're a warrior or a fighter in this case, you're interested in swords, armors and shields, maybe some rings, some scrolls, everything but the wands, right? So you can roll your percentile, and then based on that, I would say go ahead and either make the roll or literally just pick one. If you really don't want to be all rando, just pick one of these, and then that's the magic item you're gonna get. So you're gonna get one magic item. You're gonna get up to 150 gold pieces using this equipment list here. So go ahead and screenshot it. This is a good time to pause and screenshot or just look at it. And you're gonna basically build up your character that we just generated and make them a little more stronger, potentially better armor class. This is very crappy. Everything's, yep, looks good. Okay. Now the other thing I've mentioned in the past is that this Shadowdark is compatible with first edition, or you know, technically D&D BX is not first edition, but you can generate BX characters here, which are an addition of D&D after the original content, and it's basically very similar to 1E, pretty close to 2E, and the old school D&D stuff. So we're going to generate, so this is fastcharacter.com. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the description again, and we're going to create a D&D BX character. Now the good thing about the D&D, so I'm going to click it first. The good thing about the D&D BX character is it actually gives you magical items. And again, if you want to regenerate your character, you can actually go to either, let's go to, real quick to the Shadowdark, hit generate rando. Now I got a different guy. And every time you do this, you got to go back and re-level them up. But then you can essentially just start customizing a little bit, but roll them back up. And then finally get the combination that you want or whatever, okay? In the fastcharactersheet.com, advertisement hate. So we can do this one's a little bit nicer in a sense. D&D BX is a lot more simplified. Some of the early editions of D&D is much more simplified. Shadowdark is a little bit more complex, just a little. It's very little complex. But here you can now pick your race. I like picking elves because they get a little bit of magic. This is Shadowdark rules, so in this game, your elves cannot see in the dark. Okay, they're not special like they are in D&D. But you can use this BX character here. You can now pick your level 5. You can put exact XP, but we don't care. If you want, you can mess with the alignment, especially if you plan to keep the character either lawful or neutral. Don't be chaotic, as I mentioned. It's kind of pointless. You can roll, you can do stuff, but we're just going to quickly generate. So you can see very quickly I generated a character, right? So now I have a character with all this. It's because it's old school. It's a little, could be a little more difficult to get these score stats, but you can also recreate this character as well. Okay, just hit the back button. Everything still says the same. Bam, I got a new elf. And you can do it until I mentioned previously in a video that, we used to re-roll up to 12 characters or who knows how many characters. At least Gygax allowed it later on. So if you want, you can regenerate this as many times as you want. I really don't care. The important thing is you want your hit points to be 25. Okay, so this is 25 hit points. This is using the descending armor classes, but we don't want this to be a 4. We're going to use the regular new style armor class. And basically the way you get this number is you can minus it from 20 and that would give you 16. Okay, there's another chart that I have here that can assist you with that. You can see up top here we have an AC of 4. If you minus 20, you got 16. If you're a fighting man, there are special rules, but in our case, we're just going to use these numbers here. So 20 minus 4, whatever the armor class listed, and that's going to give you your actual armor class that we're going to be using for the game. So you need to modify your hit points, modify this, And when the occasion comes for it, you have to decide, because I'm just going to be using straight charisma, constitution, and checks like that. You got to decide whether or not any of the things that I gave you fall in these categories, and you make those rolls. You also get a melee magic weapons, which is kind of nice about this. So in this actual fastcharacter.com, you automatically get your magic weapon. So as long as you see a plus something here or it's somewhere else listed on here, here you go, sword +1. Even gives you some gold, some gems to work with. I would allow you, you're in town, to go ahead and still take this gold. And actually this is pretty high. So we're going to stick it to the 100, 250, and you can re-equip your character to give him better armor class. I would just ignore these numbers here, because you have what you need. You have your sword +1. It's +1 damage, +1 to your rolls, and you don't really need to focus on this part, okay? This is this is nice. The range, I guess you can use, but not this AC portion of it all. But yeah, so we're good there, okay? So let's go ahead and go back now to, well, actually we're pretty good right now. So what we're going to do last is, I'm going to show you here is how to get those virtual dice. In case you don't have them handy, I keep forgetting, but I have a little thing where I can carry all my to-go dice, but I'll show you that maybe in the future. And basically have a full set of dice in your pocket at all times. But all you really need is, a D20, so if you just have one of these laying around, use average damages and you should be fine. So what we're looking at here is dieharddice.com/pages/dice roller. If you go to Die Hard Dice, you can actually find, excuse me, the virtual dice. But you can also just put hard dice on your Google browser, hard dice, virtual dice, and this should pop up. So the next thing we're going to do is just show you this. So this, if you go to the top of the page, this is here. You can see all the tabs, but we can just make this, grab our 20, and it rolls it, right? If you stick it into this mimic, shoots it out, gives you a number, and now you can basically play. If you don't have dice on you, you can play, okay? It also has, you can do a little sweep, get rid of the dice. You can also choose 2d6 damage, boom, boom, right? Sometimes I don't accept the first roll, but if you want to always say that, throw it into the mimic, don't cheat. Rolls the dice, bam, 8 points of damage, not a bad roll. Okay, so then now you can use the mimic, you can sweep the dice, you can pick how many dice you want to use, and you're ready to play. Okay, the next, at least in terms of ready to play, next thing I want to talk about is the 2 action point system. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention is that if you did use the fastcharacter.com using the BX, we are using Shadowdark ability modifiers. So I would prefer use these bonuses for, let's say, if you're using a strength character, like a fighter or the elf, use these ability scores. So in the case of our elf over here, he has a 10 strength, so he gets no bonuses, so we don't really have to worry about it. But if any of these numbers were a little bit better, let's see, let's do a little fudging. Boom, look, good thing we did this. And now has a 17 strength. It goes a +2, okay, and actually it's a little bit more than that. The other thing that's nice about this, you should see, there it is, shield +1, so you got the magic item. Go back to our tab here. He has a 17 strength, so you actually get +3 to your attacks, and that's what you want to use instead. Okay, so make sure you use these ability stats. Just a couple of basic things that happens, and this is just part of the in vivo part of the game system. Is it's a little railroady. We can't help that. And the other thing is, if I don't mention it for some reason, I accidentally forget to say, it's a DC 10 check usually, and I do this usually all DC 10s unless it's really necessary to increase it, because I want those ability modifiers to matter. I really hate the scaling sometimes. I mean, I get it if you're gonna do something super impossible, but you should in general be able to complete your task at a 50-50 or better if you have really good modifiers for that. A couple of the things that I've noted here that I've noticed through my past recordings, if the images are blurry, sometimes you just need to increase the video resolution, right? There's an auto, but then you can go to 1080 or even HD if your phone can handle it. Then you can actually see these numbers or any small print on here. You should be able to see if you do the increased resolution. The other thing is this is an in vivo play. I do recommend, because sometimes this, I know the people who do live videos talk a little bit slower than their recorded videos, and so I do recommend sometimes a 1.25 speed to see if that works, even though I might be talking a little fast sometimes. Now, the other thing we want to do is we're going to use the 2-point action system. Okay, so I created this 2-point action system that is compatible with various OSR games, right? And the 2-point action system basically, which I created, of course. And final thing to mention is if you go to it's going to be in the description, donfranco3games.com, and go to the RPG Boons tab. There's a free PDFs there. Okay, everything's free. It's a professionally run website. Basically, you go there and you can download some Shadowdark materials, watch links to other stuff, the Monster Conquest Pocket RPG game if you're interested. By the way, if you're gonna shop for Christmas, I need to have that order in by December 15th. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to send you the game. So let's go. So we're going to use a 2 action point system. It's very simple. Okay, you can look at it here. You start with 2 points at all times. Unless it's a surprise round and you didn't catch it, you can't use any of your reactions. But you start with 2 points at any time during a combat situation, and you regain them right at the end of your turn, right? So your turn ends, then you get 2 points. And basically what this does is expands the combat of Shadowdark, as well as any OSR-like game. As you guys probably know, Mike Merles has mentioned this in the past, and D&D still has this problem. It's a math problem. And I also think there's an energy problem. So in, let's just say, first edition or second edition or later editions, normally in Shadowdark, they carry this on. For your actions, you can move on your turn, you can move and attack. You can move, but you can't attack twice, right? So that doesn't really make any sense. So rather than having that, you get 2 points, and you can use them either as reactions or you can use them during your turn. And as soon as your turn's end, which means you have nothing else to do, you automatically get your 2 points back in case you need to react to an attack that follows right after. And so then I created your primary maneuvers. These are Shadowdark related, so but this is basically all systems, okay? Your primary move, that's the first thing you do on your action, is either move, melee, or spellcast, or maybe you're trying to do something weird like climb a wall. Your second maneuver, no matter what you do, falls underneath these rules, okay? You can move on your second maneuver for your second action point. You can move up to your max, of course. You can do a second attack, which takes a -3 penalty. Okay, that's an equal to a DC rank in Shadowdark. And the idea is that whenever you do your primary action, you alert the defender, and therefore your attack is not as effective when it comes to melee or ranged attacks. Now, in terms of spell casting, I have 3 versions of the 2-point action system: low magic, medium magic, and high magic. This is the medium magic, which allows you to cast a second spell, or at least it's called second spell casting. So if you happen to cast a spell for your primary maneuver, you can still cast a second spell, assuming it's a tier 1 spell. It's a single targeting spell, one target, and it's non-incapacitating, which means it can't blind, it can't weaken, anything like that. It's normally just a straight up attack, or you can heal an ally or boost yourself or boost somebody. Okay, like that's something you can do. Now there's reactions. Now the parry and block, this is something actually from D&D. Actually, I think it is in Chainmail. Well, D&D, either way, there's the block has always been there, okay? But back in the day, because you only had 1 action, you would block and you basically can't do nothing for your turn. But in this case, it costs you 1 point to use. All these cost 1 point to use. You can block, with the -2 to attacker. And if you're proficient with the weapon you're using, if you happen to have a sword, something like that, shield, you get +2 to your dexterity modifier on top of that. Okay, so a +2 dex would actually be a -4, not a 0 when you do normal math. Basically, you just get to add the number to this, so -2 if you had a 2 modifier. The other is the reaction. Another reaction is the dive reaction. This is your last resort. Nobody does dive unless you really want to avoid hit points getting lost. But you basically use your dive reaction to get out of the way. So if you see those movies where the characters can't really do anything but is constantly dodging a crushing blow or stabbing motion because the very next blow could kill them, that's what this dive action actually emulates. So you're diving out of the way. It has to be an open space in front of you, at least 5 feet, line of sight, and when you do it, you fall to the floor, right? And that's gonna suck. But you get a -5 to the attacker. Okay, so it makes it harder for them to hit you. Doesn't mean you get away, unfortunately, but they do get a -5 to their attack roll, which means you have a better likelihood that you'll survive it. Now, these are miscellaneous actions that I came up with. There is no jump in Shadowdark in terms of a calculation for it, so then I created one here. Your jump is 1 plus your strength modifier, a minimum of 1. So it doesn't matter if you have a negative for your strength, you're going to get 1. So you can always jump to at least the adjacent square. And if you're happens to be the situation, you got full move, you can jump ×2. So you can move and then jump and get ×2 the distance. Okay, so whatever your 1 plus your strength modifier. Now, from the dive action falling prone to stand back up, it costs you 1 point, right? So this is what I mean, like in the movies, it's only the only thing you can do. So if you're trying to survive a blow and waiting for the monster to finally miss, you dive, you're prone, and the crushing blow essentially misses, then you can actually stand up, but you've already reused your dive reaction. Now you can only stand up. And so you got to hope that they miss you, so then you can finally do your attack. Otherwise, it's you just diving out of the way to survive. And you can still dive from the floor, right? So if you're in a prone position, you can roll essentially is equal to dive to the space right next to you, assuming it's wide open. Okay, this is compatible with Shadowdark, D&D 1E, 2E. Now, they have the basic either move or attack, or in 2E, you have the half move and attack. In BECMI, these are all what do they call it? Procedures. So you do things in order. In BX and BECMI, old school essentials is more like 1E, Castles and Crusades and Sagaborn. These are a little more updated versions of the old material. If you want a little more powers to your character, I would recommend Castle and Crusades and Sagaborn with the old school rules. But basically, the 2-point action system works for them too. The only thing being, excuse me, if they have, typically in Shadowdark, you cast a spell. Once you fail, you lose that spell for the moment. In these other games, they have cantrips. Shadowdark does not. So the spell that you, for the second spell cast, tier 1 is listed here because it's related to Shadowdark. But it can also be a cantrip, or it could be a spell that costs 0 mana or 1 mana, which is what Sagaborn uses. Or any level 1, level ranked 1 spell you can use, whatever system you're using. That is what you can use for your second spell cast, okay? And I think this sums up everything. So at this point, you might have already gotten your character ready, spent your equipment money, modified any of these numbers, got your magic weapon, and I think we're essentially ready to go. We're going to be playing the Age of Ruling solo play along series. I didn't mention it, but it's in the title. We're going to fight orcs from every edition, and this is called the Incursion. So, without further ado, as they say, let's get ready to run.
It has been several hundred years since the collapse of the Astoria Golden Age. A collapse caused by power and magic. The great houses have fallen. Magic knowledge has been all but lost, and all major cities have been abandoned and overrun by plant life and monsters. All that is left are barricaded small secluded hamlets, villages, and scarce towns. You are in the age of ruin. It is also the age of exploration. The few who dare leave their protected walls seek fortune, a better life, or power. Be part of the few, the bold who seek to rebuild, face the dangers, and discover of unearthed arcana. Your journey begins now.
Hope the adrenaline is pumping and you're ready to go. Welcome to World's End Hamlet. It is in the outskirts of civilization, at least the known civilization. Due to the magical wars that occurred 700 years or so, the society has collapsed and you are at World's End. You're an adventurer. You've come to World's End because you either seek riches, glory, or retirement. You need some money, or you're looking for someone to avenge. It's important you have motives, but you're here at World's End. Now, if you've been playing from the beginning, you know that there has been a discovery underneath the town of gold. And if you've survived up to this point, I would say give yourself a plus 30 gold pieces bonus because you are part of the mining. So since the discovery of the mine, the townspeople have primarily gained most of the riches, but there's more gold down there. And eventually the word leaks out that there's gold here at World's End. And so people have been coming in just for mining jobs. And they've been allowed to come in, mine. You can see at the top right here, there's a mining camp, small little fire. We've created an entrance to the cave system. We know that originally the entrance was here near the market area. That's been sealed and we basically dug into the area. There's also been, you would know this if you've survived this whole time, there was some type of ancient ruin or ancient dungeon underneath this market area. It would be important to note that these bricks here appear to be ancient and established. So underneath there was a dungeon, and essentially that has been sealed off. So if you've been to World's End, if this is your first time here, you don't know this. So again, metagaming, no metagaming. But if you've been here before and you've survived, you're getting 30 GP on top of what you've already gotten. If you want, you can go back and pause and use that gold if you need. But these also sealed off the dungeon there and created a new cave to get to that area so they can actually start mining gold. And they found a generous amount of gold deposits there, or gold veins as sometimes they call them. And we've been mining though. These rocks represent more and more people coming in. It's during the daytime. You know the local magistrate, his name is Mendel. He's been somewhat of a little bit, as time has gone on, he's been kind of showing off his magic a little bit. So he is a little bit of a wizard. But you have become a little bit of friends with him. If you're new to the town, then you've just met Mendel, because he gets to know everybody who comes in. He wants to know who's in this town. So you've definitely met him. This is the entrance to World's End. So you may have come through here. This is typically the checkpoint. The town folks, again, these are not simpleton townsfolk, because this is World's End, the edge of civilization. We frequent encounters with monsters, and most of the townfolk here have a little bit of fighting ability in them, and nowadays have a little bit more armor on them. So, talking to the magistrate, if you've already been here, all right, you happen to be in the middle of town, and the magistrate just kind of approaches you, or you're overhearing this if you're not a close friend of his, and one of the alchemists in town has been able to create an explosive material. And each of these towers have some type of ballista on top of them, okay? At least 2. And you can hear the magistrate saying, perhaps we should think about loading some of these ballista with some explosive tips to help secure the city. We've been reinforcing the walls, but the word is getting out. People are coming to town. People we didn't even ask for are coming to town, seeking jobs. And we can't act suspicious here. So if clearly we have a mining camp outside, so we have to give jobs. So what should we do? We need to secure our town. But should I go to the alchemist tonight? Or I think I might just do it tomorrow and try to secure, or at least start creating some of these explosive tips. Now, if you've been in town and you're surviving this in the past, this is the benefit of doing this in the past. You know the magistrate. So you actually can go up to the magistrate and ask him if he would, or convince him that he should load the explosive tips sooner than later. Okay, so if you know the magistrate and you've been in this town before, bonus for playing Age of Ruin before, I want you to make a DC 10 charisma check, but you get a +2 bonus to your roll, and you're going to try to convince the Mendel that he should add the explosive tips tonight, to not wait any longer. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is make a DC 10. Okay, with charisma check, persuasion check, if you will. Okay. Now, if you succeeded, go ahead and do that. If you succeeded, remember that, okay? It's going to come back up. Now you have some ballista bolts with explosive tips on the top, okay? And that's going to help you a little bit later. All right, so you tell him, the day grows, you can see whether or not you convinced them. You can still talk to the magistrate if you're new in town and try to convince him, but you don't get the +2 to your charisma check. So now that the day has gone by, you see they're loading up. If you succeeded, you see them loading up some of these, some arrows with explosive tips. The day continues, and eventually the sun begins to settle. And now it's nighttime, okay? Mining is still going, so the fire is still burning. People are still mining. You are inside the town, okay? And the mining is continuing to happen. Now, you just, being the late person you are, maybe you went to the cantina in the tavern here in the hotel. They have the bar here. You've had a few beers. You've been walking around town, They do find you a little suspicious that you feel the need to walk around and check out the town. It doesn't matter if you're a wizard, a priest, a thief, or a rogue. You believe in securing or staying safe. You're a planner. And so you're walking around town, just checking things out. And then finally you're walking here and, they're pretty cool here. They allow you to get up here and you got at least no roll necessary. You've got enough people to be comfortable with you. So even if you're new to the town, we'll say you've been here for a few days. When you first approach, they do have sword in hand in these watchtowers with the townsfolk guards, but they known you. You seem like a reasonable person. You've been checked. You don't appear to be doing nothing weird, so they allow you to come up into the tower here. And you're, just kind of hanging out, taking a look. To the north, there's a forest. It's, if you've been here before, you've actually gone into the forest and have seen some ogres attack the town. So you, as a normal, if you're a new person, you notice that a lot of this wall was reconstructed. A lot of this tower appears to be new stone. But as you're standing there, you look out into the woods. You're looking out into the forest. I want you to make a wisdom check or perception check DC 10 to see. Actually, we got to make it a little more difficult, so don't roll yet. Let's make it a DC 15 check. It is nighttime. The light of the town's torches only goes furthest as I'm showing you here. But maybe just by some offhand chance, DC 15, I could make it more difficult, but let's stick with DC 15. You look down into the forest, at least what you could barely see a forest. It's a little bit of a moonlight out, it's still dark, but you look out. DC 10, go ahead and make a wisdom perception check. Okay. Now, if you made that, you notice, I don't know, the forest seems to be moving. Seems like there's shadows within the forest, okay? If you didn't make it, you don't see this. You're just kind of hanging out. And as you're looking into the forest, you start realizing this is only if you made that perception check, DC 15. You notice little ants approaching. Wait, those are not ants. What the hell is that? And at that moment, you notice all these humanoids slouching over, trying to stealthily walk towards the town. Okay. They're walking. And you literally look over. Now, if you didn't make your DC check, then you're just noticing now. You hear a little bit of huffing. Now, as stealthy as they want to be, they still huff and puff. You see a bunch of humanoids, oddly enough, that look like, yes, piglins. You play Minecraft? It's a straight up piglin for sure. You notice these, well, it wasn't in color back then, and we could say they're pink, but we're going to say they're albino looking pigmen approaching. So ignore the green guys here, but because I had enough time to go take a bunch of little icons, just pretend they're white. Actually, I could literally just turn these on. Let's see if I can do it. Bam. Is it working? Son of a bitch. Yes, it sort of worked. All right, here we go. So you see all these albino looking humanoids coming. And the first thing I want you to do, if you were able to convince the magistrate to load those explosive tipped ballistas, I want you to say, hey there, look there. And the town guard looks at you and says, oh shit. He goes, load the ballista. Now, if you have a background in some type of military soldier where you may have handled a ballista, you're going to get an advantage to this attack. If you don't, then you just have a regular attack. Okay, so this is where I try to use some of the characters' backgrounds. I don't know what you created, so you can now load the ballista. You have some general knowledge. It's like a bow, right? You stick it in there, you crank it, and you grab the explosive tip. Okay, so you load it on there. Now I just want you to make a DC 10. Actually, make it a DC 15. DC 12. Let's make a DC 12 attack. And basically just roll it. If you roll low, okay, you have an advantage here. If you roll low, tactical advantage. And bonus double advantage if you have the training. So you roll shoot the ballista, shoot it into the crowd. DC 12. Go ahead and roll DC 12. Let's make it a dexterity check. Shoot. If you roll higher than 12, okay, then you wipe out a significant portion of this squad. Okay, so it goes from, these are just numbers we're going to work with. It goes from 8 to 4 if you've it goes from 4 to 2 if you manage to hit this. Okay, so you hit them, rolled. If at that moment though they continue to charge forward and begin to use like the human ladder, you know, they kind of stack on top of each other to basically start scaling the wall here. Okay, And now your character, now if you're a mage and you want to use a couple of cantrips or spell, the combat has started. Okay, I'm gonna allow you to take the first attack. Now if you were able to hit, there's 2 soldiers coming up the wall who you have to take care of. Okay, and here's the stats for a first edition orc. Okay, it uses the descending armor class, so actually its armor class is a 14, not a 6, and it's moving up. It has 1 hit dice, which basically is an equivalent, we're gonna say 5 hit points. So you either fight 2 of these albinos, oopsie, 2 of these albinos, or 4 of them if you failed on your dexterity attack on these approaching squads. Okay, now this is a part that I wish I could be there with you rolling dice, but I can't. So you have either 2 or 4 albino piglins looking orcs coming at you, 1d8 damage to their attack, armor class of 14. You can pause the video if you need and fight either 2, fight 4 of these guys. Okay, remember you're 5th level. They're basically on the wall at this point. Okay, and you can fight them 1 at a time because this is pretty narrow. They're coming 1 at a time. If you have a spell attack that has line of attack and you can hit multiple targets, you could do that here. We'll say there's 2 coming up here and there's 2 coming up on this side, or 1 and 1. Okay, the other guardsman is on this side of the tower alerting the man below, hey, they're coming, we have an attack, we have an attack. They're beginning to kind of rattle up the town. So go ahead and do that combat real quick if you'd like. Fun. I can do 2 attacks for the orcs. They have no bonuses for their attack, but let me go ahead and throw in that 20. We're not gonna ignore the first roll, remember. 2 attacks, 2 action point system. First attack is a 12. Second attack is a 7. You probably want to take my rolls because those very likely missed. We had the armor class of Franco here. He has a 13. So even with that armor class, he would miss. Okay. But go ahead and continue the combat. I'm going to pause for like a few seconds. Then I'm going to assume you survived. Okay. At that moment, you've killed the 2 orcs, hopefully without any wounds. The guard looks at you and says, I'll hold up this tower. Get to the other towers. Again, this is a little railroady because it has to be. Get to the other towers. Help the other men. Help them secure the towers. Get the word out. So you begin to come down the tower. You're establishing yourself as a trustful person within the town. You start running down this wall here to get to the next tower to let them know that there's an attack coming to the north of these albino piglins, right? You run all the way down the wall, it is nighttime, so it's not that busy, and you are kind of raising hell, but people sleep. They're sleeping. People are sleeping, so it's that late. So some people can't even hear you when you're sleeping, right? I mean, or people can't hear things, right? So you get to this tower and you're like, hey, there's a tower. There's an attack happening to the north. There's an attack happening to the north. Alert the town, alert the town. This is not like Lord of the Rings. They don't have torches at the top of mountains to alert each other's towers. Actually, that's a really good idea for this town. Maybe we can implement that. So as you're sitting here and you're telling him, he turns on, look at you, he go, and before you get it all out, and he doesn't even appear to be listening, he turns around and looks at you and says, they're here. And then you look out beyond the camp, and in the dark you see another squad of orcs. You're being basically, an incursion is occurring of your camp. All right, so you see these orcs running through the mining camp. You see some miners fighting back. Some of them have weapons. Some of them just have their picks. They're battling. Now, this area happens to be empty, and you see orcs funneling through this, okay? as they're funneling through this, the guy is loading up the ballista. He goes, I'll load, you shoot. Okay. Now, if you have a magic spell instead, I'm going to allow this because you should get some options. If you have a spell that can attack from here, you can use a spell attack basically to attack these guys. It's not going to be as effective as the ballista, but you can see we have our grid system here. They're about 5 feet apart from each other. It's literally this group here. So if you're planning to make some type of spell attack, keep in mind the radius of your attack and how many foes will actually get hit. Okay, as long as you hit them, I would say they die. Okay, so go ahead and make a spell attack. It has to have an area effect. Okay, that's the only way it's going to work. But there's basically 4 guys or 2 guys, similar as before, that you have to worry about. Okay, so if you're casting a spell, go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, let me go ahead and get this stat block. These guys look a little different than the albino ones. These guys are a little more slouched over. They look less like regular humans. They have a little bit of a green skin on them. And yeah, they look less piggy. They look more apish, I would say, right? Like, I don't know, old, not Neanderthal, but Australopithecus afarensis, whatever it is. You know, one of those old school humanoids. Little different, some claws, and this second edition orc comes in for the attack, right? So if you use the ballista, DC, what was it before? DC 12, rolled it again. If you have military background, you can use the ballista. So you got 2 choices: use the ballista, advantage with military background, or some type of weapon training that would suggest that you have maybe used the ballista before. You have advantage on the attack. DC 12. You roll high, then there's only 2 orcs that you have to fight. You roll low, you have to fight 4 of these orcs as they climb using the same tactics. They're not completely stupid. They did talk to each other about how to get up on this wall, or maybe they're being commanded by someone and told to how to think. Now, if you use a spell attack, again, it's just 1 attack. It either kills, depending, even you can arguably kill all 4, and maybe you can do that for XP, but there's so many orcs, you're going to either, if you hit with your spell attack, you only have 2 orcs to fight, 1 on each side of the wall, or you got 4 if you failed. What we got here is armor class. This is again I forgot to write it here, but it's the descending armor class. So this is actually armor class 14. 1 hit die, so it's usually, I think it's a D8 or D6. Either way, we're going to give them 5 hit points. And that's all you really need to know about these guys. Okay, there's 2 guys in front of you. Attack them any way you want. This is 2nd edition orc. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. So you can pause it here. I guess I should let you pause it earlier, but you can pause it here. But I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to throw 2 rolls for them for 2 attacks against you. Okay. I know you're thinking, hey, there's a soldier guy here. Why isn't he helping me? He is. There's other orcs climbing up, and he's trying to hit them with his mace or reload the ballista while you're just trying to take on the incursion of guys coming up the wall. So you 2 orc attacks. And I believe they have no bonuses. 1 roll. Oh, 18. That's probably going to hit you. 1 more attack from the orcs. Nat 1, baby. I'll allow you to have an advantage attack on one of these orcs. Okay, remember 2 action point system, so you can attack twice. If you're a fighter, -3 penalty, 2 action point system. To your second attack, first attack, that's fine. But if you have advantage on that second attack, you have, it's still -3, but at least you have advantage on the attack. Okay, so this is a good point. If you didn't kill them all in single shots, go ahead and pause. Take these guys out. Right at that moment, That soldier looks at you, he goes, get to the south tower, let him know what's going on here. In your mind, you're like, what? We're being attacked from the north as well. But he goes, you need to get the word out. As much as these guys are attacking, they're being as quiet as possible. It is nighttime. And if you look down this way, you can see the tower down there, but only based on torchlight, right? So they have their own radius for torchlight over there. You've seen too much. So you come to this tower. So this is their torchlight. So you can see a little bit of what's going on, but you run down to try to help them. At that moment, as you're running down this tower, you see other townsfolk beginning to show up and jump up here. Some of these orcs, unfortunately, are getting through the walls, and you're just running through them. You're running past them. You want to get to this other tower. You get up to here. You can see the staircase coming up. You get up there. And again, you already see this guy launching arrows. And you see the ballista there. And he looks at you, says, I don't know how to use the damn thing. Goddamn first night on the job. And so as he's sitting here shooting off his arrows at some of these incoming orcs, they're coming, they're charging, and they're not getting crazy loud like Lord of the Rings screaming. They're kind of just huffing and puffing. It is nighttime. They're following instruction very well. Huffing and puffing. They're getting. Now you have a chance to use that ballista again, right? DC 12. Roll higher than, it's either going to tell you you're going to have to fight 4 or 2 of what? What you say? They look like this. They're little wilder, tribal looking 3rd edition orc coming in. These orcs look just a little bit different. Actually, these look a lot more like the 2nd ones, but it is a different type of orc. Now, here's a case. We got 5 hit points on these 3rd editions. Armor class at 13. Okay, so it's a little bit less. They have a +4 to their Felchian attack. And it does 2d4 +4. Okay, these mofos are a little stronger. So hopefully you made that DC 12 roll. Otherwise, same thing. The walls are big, but they're using that body climb on tactic, and they're coming up. They're coming up. They're climbing that wall. They look like this. They're a little more upright compared to 2nd edition orcs. Although they look relatively related, I would say. So DC 12, did you make it? If you did, you only had to fight 2 of these orcs. All right. That means you loaded up the ballista. You either have advantage on that attack to explode them, or you could use the spell if you're a priest. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and do that. And as always, I'm going to roll the first 2 attacks. So there's 2. You get to attack first, remember. Attack. Action, 2-point action system. And I'm going to make 2 rolls with the assumption that they survived your attacks. If they didn't survive your 2 attacks, then ignore this. But if they did, +4 to these rolls, remember. 9. Did you see that natural 20 almost hit? So 9 and a 12. Now, I'm pretty sure if you're using the fighter, you'd not get hit at all. So go ahead and finish this combat out. They have +4 to their attack. Their damage does 2d4 +4. Okay. So I'm going to slow pause, but continue to move on. Now, at this moment, more soldiers are approaching. More people are being alerted. You're somewhat of a leader, okay? So what I want you to do is you see a squad of 10 men coming up, and I need you to make a DC 10 charisma check. Okay, so make a DC 10 charisma check. You see a squad of 10 soldiers, and you're literally trying to command them. I need, you know, this is adrenaline rush. You feel the hype. You're pumped. You're like, I need some of you to come with me. The rest of you stay here and help defend this tower. DC 10. If you make it, okay, I don't know how damaged your character is. He's 5th level, but I've had bad rolls, so you might have low hit points. But DC 10, if you succeed, 4 soldiers come with you, okay? If you fail, only 2 of them do. And you guys begin to run down the rest of the wall. There appears to be less activity at this wall, okay? As far as you can tell, less activity at this wall. What's happening here? You get up there, and when you get to this tower, I want you to make a wisdom perception check of DC. Let's make it a DC 15 perception wisdom check. Okay. If you succeed, you see a rogue slitting, like on the floor, slicing the throat of one of your fellow townsmen guards people. Okay, he's slicing the throat. There, it looks like he's they were wrestling, but this rogue has gotten the best of him, and he's slicing the throat open. Okay, and you get to take a free attack at this. 2 attacks. Actually, we'll say 1 attack because you used your movement to come in. Go ahead and make an attack to, surprise, surprise, another orc, except this one happens to have, you know what, this will be better on this side. This one happens to have rogue-like uniform on. Okay. Just make a armor class of, oh snap. We're going to use the bottom. We're not going to use the warrior, because this armor class of 21. You know what? This is a rogue. We're going to make the rogue this orc warrior from 4th edition. The good news is it's a minion, so it has 1 hit point. So all you really need to do is hit it once. But it has an armor class of 21. So if you you've succeeded on your perception check, wisdom check, you saw it, you get to take the first attack, 2 attacks. Armor class of 21. He's very agile, very dexterous. I want you to make those attacks on him. If you failed, he throws a dagger at you. Okay? All right. So let me roll that dagger just in case. Very quickly. I'll get over here. It's got to go in the mimic, guys. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Ah, come on. Get in there. Eat it. Okay. Bam. Look, I rolled that 19 that I previously saw. Okay, so it rolls a 19. So if you failed your perception check, your wisdom check, it did a dagger attack at you. 19 definitely hits, man. So +2 to dexterity. Oops, sorry. Here we go. +4 to dexterity. So he has a +4 to his attack. Weapon. Okay, it's giving base damages here, but this is a dagger. So we're going to say it's 3 points of damage if it hits. Okay. 3 points of damage if it hits. That's if you didn't see it. Okay, now I just need you to carry first an attack battle with. Now this is going to be a tough one. Now you got the 2 or 4 henchmen with you. The way henchmen work in this game, anytime you take a blow, you decide to either kill that the blow happens to your henchmen. They also have 1 hit point, and they die, or you decide to take the attack. Okay, now you can decide depending on what the damage is. I'm gonna allow this just because we're being a little fluff here, because we're not being as hardcore. If you take after the damage, well, actually we know the damage, it's 3 points of damage. So if you can not sustain the 3 points of damage, then you definitely want your minion to die instead. So you got either 2 or 4 minions, and every time you take a hit, You can let your minions die instead. All right, up to you. Depends on how many minions you got. After that happens, yeah, it ain't over. It is not over. So go ahead and fight the rogue 4E orc assassin. Armor class of 21. He has +4 to his attacks. It's dagger attacks of 3 damage. Yeah, I'm modifying this, but that's what DMs do. Okay. Once you kill him, you look over, and he was supposed to be the sneak attack guy to secure the tower, but you interrupted, and you were able to stop his allowing of them. So you were able to actually get to the ballista. And again, I need you to make a DC 12 dexterity check. You have advantage again if you have a military background, some type of training in background in some type of military soldier, something that would allow you to get advantage. Okay. You shoot your ballista DC 12. If you roll a higher than a 12, then there's only 2 of these 4E orcs that get into the area that you are, into this tower, and begin to attack you. And in that case, you're going to battle this one, the Drudge. Okay. And this Drudge has a 16 armor class. Okay. It has a base damage of 5. Okay. And its attack bonus. Look, this +9, this is 4E. You know what? This is a little ridiculous, but F it. We're fighting every edition. All right, so he has a +9 to his club attack. It does 5 points of damage. So you're either fighting 4 or you're fighting 2, depending on your ballista attack. You have 2 to 4 henchmen, depending on what survived. And anytime you take a hit and you don't want to take the 5 points of damage, one of your henchmen goes down. So, pause, screenshot, then I'm going to proceed. So after defeating those orcs, at least this area, they're still being on. More and more townsfolk are coming. They're trying to help with the attack, the incursion. Your ballista attack got rid of at least a good portion of these guys. If you hit, more soldiers are approaching. You are being overwhelmed in this tower, okay? And so you are actually forced to back up, and a lot of the fighting is happening here. We could say that during that battle, you kind of went backwards and fought in this area. You see as more and more townspeople come, they start supporting you. You see that Mendel, the wizard, shows up. He runs out here from the market area. He starts casting some spells. He goes, "Thank you for your allegiance. Head to the northwest tower." So you, again, little railroady, it has to be. You run towards the wall here. You take whatever henchman survived. You continue to run up this way. And then you can hear pounding and slamming. Forgive me. That's the best. No, Matt Mercer here, man. So you hear a bunch of pounding and hitting, and you see ballistas being shot off. And then all of a sudden you see a few arrows hit the man in this tower here. You're running up. You're seeing all this. He falls down, leaving the ballista unattended. You immediately run up with your henchmen. And again, you are allowed to shoot off a ballista attack. You do see a little bit of orcs battling over here based on your torch. You saw some. The other towers being mostly secure, but there's still some battling happening. But you were more distracted by the pounding and hitting of this side. You see a bunch of other orcs approaching. Oh. At this point, nobody cares. It's loud, it's rowdy. They're attacking. Oh. Okay, I want you to DC 12 ballista check. And this will just determine what amount of guys you're going to be battling in the immediate future. Yes. These orcs appear to be just a little different than all the other orcs. They look a little caveman-ish, if you will. So you either have 2 or 4 of these 5e orcs that you have to fight. Okay. Let's add this, make it easier. And as before, they have armor class of 15. They have great axes that do, oh my god, 9 points of damage, plus 5 to hit. Okay. 2 or 4 you have to fight here. Hopefully you're still alive, and whatever henchmen you have left are keeping you alive. So I'm gonna let you take 2 attacks to either 2 or 4 of these guys. And I'm gonna throw the first 2 attacks at you, as before. Plus 5. Oh my god, okay, sorry. That's a 22 on the first attack, so that does, was it 9 points of damage? Remember, if you can't take it, you only have 25 hit points, man. If you can't take it, give it to your henchmen. Hopefully you still have henchmen. And let me tell you, if you've had a bad day. Oh my god, again, okay. The dice, guys, the dice giveth, the dice taketh away. That's a plus 5. It hit, man. I mean, I don't know. It's 23. It hit 9 points of damage. Okay, so now's a good time for you to take over. Hopefully they have 15 hit points each. That's right. So either fight 2 of these guys, 1 of these guys. Good luck. Okay. Go and pause, roll it out. I know it's a lot of hit points, but you do get 2 attacks, and they only get 1 attack towards you. Oh man, I might have missed that detail. All of them only get 1 attack towards you. So maybe you played it this way anyways. The reason being is their intelligence is -2. And in order for you to get that second attack in, you have to be an intelligent creature. Okay. So go ahead and roll out. All these monsters only had 1 attack, while you have your 2 attacks using the 2-point action system. Regular attack. And if you're a wizard, you have cantrips, hopefully. Wizards also have staves. And we got those henchmen. Okay. Dice giveth, the dice taketh away. Now, let me go back to this. Hopefully you paused it and saw it, but in case you didn't, the orcs continue, some jumping over the walls, attacking people. We got the piglin whites. We got these gray orcs. We have the 4E orc attacking. We have the 3E orcs attacking. We have the 2E orcs attacking. And we come full circle to the 1E orcs attacking. Now, hopefully, you were able to stop the incursion. Hopefully, this helps you build up your character background, gives you more experience, and that's the Age of Ruin solo play-along series. I'm Don Franco 3. This is RPG Boons. Again, everything to play this game, go to donfranco3games.com. The RPG tabs, RPG Boons tab has all the free Has a character sheet. This just kind of has a character sheet with the 2 action point system, right? I didn't mention this, I threw it in here, but we didn't use 5.5 orcs because apparently they're not monsters. They're out in the West being cowboys. So we only fought 1E, 2E, and you know, the 3.5E, I put 3 here, and 4E, 5E orcs. Okay. Thank you for stopping by. Playing the Age of Ruin solo play along. Should be a 1 minute, oh yeah, hopefully no more than 30-40 minutes of actual gameplay. I'll timestamp it. And thanks for being here. If you succeeded, go ahead and give yourself 30 more gold pieces. Some people you know might have died. Go back to that equipment. Maybe pick some more items to beef up your character. And until I see you again, thanks for stopping by.